Well, let's go ahead and kick this off. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today at the Megaport Live Tech Drop-In. My name is Matt Madawi, solution architect based out of Plano, Texas. Before we start, just a little bit about me. While I'm fairly new to Megaport, I'm not new to the product. I worked for a Megaport customer at my last role, and I was the person responsible for turning up our services with Megaport back in 2019. So I know firsthand, the power of the Megaport and what everything that it can do. But today we just have a few quick slides to give you some background about Megaport, and then I'll show you just how easy it is to turn up a Megaport. So at Megaport, we consider ourselves a hyperscaler of network connectivity on demand. That means you pay for what you use. Everything is point and click. So within 60 seconds, you can get everything started. It's very simple. Of course, it's all private. We have a global private backbone, full carrier grade, N+1 redundancy. And that can get you to where you want to go. So that's Microsoft Azure, AWS, GCP, Salesforce, Cloudflare. You know, most cloud service providers are already on our network, and it's as simple as point and click. So who we connect today, we have over 2,500 enterprise customers. We've been in the game for 10 years now, so just over 10 years. And we have more cloud on-ramps than anybody else. So we're number one with Azure and number two with AWS. What that means is that instead of having uh, like a cross connect go, from here to Timbuktu, you can connect locally, so that lowers your costs and you ride the cloud's backbone. We also have over 100 different data center operators, and that is not static. We're continuously adding to our network. So we have over 70 different data centers in the pipeline and over 16 to start by the end of this quarter. So we're continuously adding more data centers to serve our customers. And finally, we have a marketplace. So with your Megaport, you can choose to offer services to other Megaport users. So we have over 400 different vendors in there publicly available. So like Cisco WebEx, Wasabi for hot cloud storage. So uh, that's all private connectivity that you can use for your vendors, like B2B connections. Very, very useful. So moving on, before we really dive in, let's take a look at what Megaport isn't, just to get you a frame of reference. So we're not the last mile. And when we say last mile, that's like the end run connecting to your headquarters or to your branch offices to the data center. Uh, Megaport maintains racks of equipment in over 800 different data centers, and that's where the core data center is notated here. So effectively, we're the middle mile. So you get your connectivity to your data center, and then from there, we can connect you to any other point in the Megaport network. So that's the full concept of a Megaport. So that could be other data centers, could be other cloud providers, could be the marketplace as we talked about. We also have an internet exchange that we've been very busy building that out. So to give you an idea of what a connected network looks like, let's say you had a data center over here at CyrusOne in Dallas, Texas, and it's a 10 gig port, and you wanted to connect that to AWS. So in this instance, we have an on-ramp in Dallas. You'll turn up a virtual cross connect or VXC to AWS. In this case, it's a 5 gig VXC. So just because you have a 10 gig port, you don't have to have 10 gigs of service. You can vary that. Going back to, pay for what you use. So besides that Cyrus One facility, let's say you were in Atlanta, Georgia, or Chicago, Illinois, and those also wanted to have connectivity to Azure and Oracle. So you could easily do that as well. Taking that a step further, now that you have this collection of sites, say you wanted to connect them to each other, as we talked, the Megaport can connect up to 100 different things. So it could be cloud service providers, could be other Megaports, and like we talked about the marketplace and the IAC stuff. So in this case, we connected them together at a gig each. And of course, let's say you had some workflows where the clouds had to speak directly to each other. So let's say you had an application in AWS with a database in Oracle. So we have another product called the Megaport Cloud Router, or MCR, and that's specifically built for those types of flows. A great use case for that is in disaster recovery scenarios. So let's say if you had an outage in your on-prem, instead of having to hairpin your traffic to a on-prem data center, your clouds can talk to each other. So if you lost connectivity with your on-prem, your applications would still work. Moving along, uh, we do have a new product that can now help you leverage SD-WAN and enable your branch offices through the Megaport Virtual Edge, or MVE. What that is like could think of it like a bare metal server that we provide your compute, networking, and internet. You bring your license. There's 5 different vendors that we support, from Aruba to Versa to Cisco SD-WAN. So you bring your license, we stand this up. So as opposed to taking down a rack in a data center, you can just point and click and deploy a router, wherever you need it. So that's that's actually the whole kit and caboodle from the background. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our dashboard, our portal looks like, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to turn up a Megaport. And we're going to do a connection actually. So let's see here. Uh, I'm moving over to the portal. I hope you guys can see this. So we are the premier hyperscaler for network connectivity on the planet. We're still working on other planets, might be a little bit. But as you can see in our dashboard, we have a globe. This is a fairly new feature that just kind of shows you exactly where all of our points of presence are. So we're very heavy in APAC, uh, Europe, and North America. So since I'm in Texas, let's go ahead and drill down. I'm actually in the North Texas area, closer to Dallas. And we're going to pick one of these different sites. So I think we were talking about Cyrus One, weren't we? So we can create a port there. There's Louisville and there's Carrollton. Let's go to Carrollton. That sounds nice. Sunny Carrollton. So you have a choice of port speeds at Carrollton. You can do a 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig. Now with Megaport, all of our costs are transparent. It's up front. So as you can see, the 1 gig or the 10 gig ports are actually the same. If you wanted to do 100 gig available, then that goes up a little bit, but you know, there's some economies of scale. So if you have 3 or 4 megaports, then it's better to just have a single 1 gig port, or you wanted to aggregate some of your traffic. But let's go back to a 10 gig port. since that's what most people need. We're going to call this Cyrus 1 Carrollton at Dallas Megaport. Now we have a service level reference here. That's if you had any sort of notation you wanted to include for billing purposes. As we talked about, uh, transparent billing, so you can have it on month to month up to a 36-month term. Of course, the longer your term is, the cheaper it gets. But since we're doing a demo, we're just going to stick with a month to month. In Carrollton, we also have the option for diversity. So that means at the Megaport layer, you have different physical devices. So you would have a red or a blue zone, and that way you can ensure that you won't have any service interruption and maintenance events, software upgrades, that sort of thing. But so you can choose to create a diverse pair. But we're just going to stick to a single port for now to simplify things. There's also the option to aggregate ports. So if you needed to have, uh, a little bit more bandwidth. So let's say you wanted 20 gigs of virtual cross connect. You could get two ports together, and that's still less than 100 gig port. So, everything is a la carte. So you get what you need, and it's very flexible. All of this can be changed. Nothing is written in stone here. I mean, obviously, if you selected a 36-month term, it's going to be hard to roll that one back, but you would typically start at a lower term, and then, as you lock in what you really need, you can uh, keep, you can select your contract term to get the best savings for your business. So let's go ahead, go to the next page. That's it. So you have a summary here of what we selected. We're going to add the port. We're going to click order. And once again, order now. So what that does is it's starting to provision that port at our site in Carrollton. And this is the port that we just configured. In about 60 seconds, we're going to get the LOA. So the longest pole in the tent is going to be that physical cross connect. So from your rack of equipment in Cyrus 1 to the Megaport rack of switches needs to have a physical cross connect. It'll be a 10 gig single mode fiber with LR optics. So once you get that up, that usually takes 2 to 3 days. Then everything else can be deployed very quickly. But as we're waiting on that, let me talk you through some of the other features on our portal. So we have a chat feature down here, so you can engage our support team within 15 minutes. There's a 15-minute SLA on that, and you're talking to a real person. So that's definitely the fastest way to engage support. You can also email or call them. But as we're waiting on that, we can choose to turn up any of our different connections. And you can see here, this is that LOA that, so this is what you would hand to your data center operator to run that cross connect. So LOA CFA. Typically, and that's 60 seconds as opposed to, if you were to go through your traditional telco, that could take 6 weeks, where they're running new circuits, installing hardware, and turning up new devices, right? So that can be a lengthy process, whereas here we're already pre-patched, so everything is automated. So there's a couple different ways to add a virtual cross connect or VXC. You can click one of these tiles here, or click this plus connection. They'll both get you to the same place. Let's go ahead and go to Microsoft Azure. And so it's really straightforward. All it takes is a service key. And what is a service key? So let's go ahead and go to the Microsoft Azure portal. I'm going to go back here. So this is, where you start off. You can go to Express Route Circuit. We're going to click Create. Just select any. I mean, this is my lab account, so it's not really impactful of anything. We're going to say, since I'm in Texas, I'm going to call this US South Central, which is located in San Antonio. And it's, there we go, South Central US. We're going to call this MP Live. And so port type is going to be provider. We're going to go with Megaport. And we're going to appear in Dallas. So the rule of thumb is you want to go to the nearest on-ramp. So um, the virtual cross connect is as short as possible, so it keeps your Megaport cost down, and then you ride your the Microsoft's backbone to wherever your region is. Although if you've seen our portal, it'll say like it's tied to a specific region. That's actually not the case. Once you get to an on-ramp, you can go to any region within Azure, and it's likewise for GCP or with AWS. So um, the each on-ramp isn't really tied to a specific region. For bandwidth, we're going to keep this at minimum since this is a demo. And then the SKU, keeping that standard. I'm going to click create. So the differences between the SKUs, standard is if you're within the same region, premium is if you have other regions. So each express route can actually, express route circuit can connect to multiple different regions. Your virtual network gateway, uh, you can have, it's up to 4. So uh, the premium, the premium SKU for the express route can allow you to connect to other regions outside of your current region. So like in this case, we're in North America, you can use the premium SKU to connect to regions in Europe or Australia. So as this is processing, we're just going to sit tight for here. Any questions or anything? Well, here we go. So we completed that. As you can see, we're provisioned with Megaport. Uh, its status is not provisioned yet. We're at 50 megs and we're in Dallas. So this is the service key that we were talking about. So you copy this. And in a second here, it's going to sync up. The one thing about doing these live is, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay between the portal. But you can see here, you have two different options, red or blue diversity zones. So that gives you diversity on the Microsoft side. So uh, it's different physical devices on the Microsoft Edge. We're going to choose primary, which is blue. Going to go next. So your virtual cross connect also has a few options similar to like a port. You're going to want to name it P Live VXC. We're going to keep this at 50. That was what we provisioned in the Azure portal. Now you can actually go bigger on here. And so, or I'm sorry, when I say go bigger, you can change the speed with Azure, but you can only go up. You can't go back. If you want to go smaller, you'd have to redeploy the express route. So on the virtual cross connect, as we talked about, each port has up to 100 VLANs. So each virtual cross connect is a VLAN that's specific to whatever traffic you want. So you could have one VLAN for AWS, one VLAN for Microsoft. You can either choose your own VLAN or you can have one automatically assigned. We're just going to let the portal pick. And also continuing with that transparency in the fees, you can do month to month or up to 36 months. So this is opposed to, you know, typical cloud costs where it's based on the amount of data, and not just your your it's not just the level of data, it's what direction it's flowing in. So usually ingress data is free, but egress data, they're going to charge you. If you're going through the internet, it's 9 cents a gig. If you're using private connectivity like ExpressRoute, for instance, it's 2.5 cents per gig. So there's definitely a level where it really starts to make sense depending on how much data you're putting in and pulling out of the cloud. So we're just going to select that. Um, Now, one of the things that makes peering with Microsoft a little unique is they require Q&Q, which is 802.1 AD. It's also known as VLAN tunneling. They're the only cloud service provider that does that. We have many, many options for that and workarounds. So if your equipment doesn't support Q&Q, we have a feature called Azure Peering VLAN, and that allows us to take over that Q&Q for you. The one limitation is that you can only peer at a single layer. When I say layer, like going back to the Azure portal, and you want to do your peering with Azure, there's private, public, or Microsoft. So with if you do the single Azure peering, that means you can only do one of these. If you needed to peer at the private and the Microsoft layer, you would just deploy another virtual cross connect. So we're just going to select that, and then we're going to stick with Q and Q because that's what we like to do. And I'm going to click Add and Order. And of course, Order Now. So as you can see, we're currently in the process of deploying this connection. This icon is gray because we haven't actually turned it up yet. That cross connect isn't there to real devices, but once you were to connect, it would look green like this guy. And so now that we've initiated it, our APIs are syncing up with the Microsoft API, and shortly enough, this will change to provisioned, and you would start then, creating your peering for BGP and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and see how long that takes. So, one question I get a lot is, are you able to peer with an express route in two separate on-ramps? So traditionally, the answer was no. Each express route requires a primary and a secondary, and they would both be at the same on-ramp. So you can reuse the same service key that we talked about, but they would both on-ramp in Dallas. Now, Microsoft recently launched a new product called ExpressRoute Metro that allows you to peer in different on-ramps. So you could have your primary in Dallas and maybe a secondary in another region like San Antonio or something like that. Uh, you know, it'll vary. They're actually brand new types of on-ramps. So they're having to re-architect things. So it's in the process right now. It's currently only available in Amsterdam. And you'll see that if you go back to oh, look, it's already provisioned here. I can show you real quick. If you go to let's go back to the express route circuit and say we wanted to turn up another one. And we're going to do East US and test provider is going to be Megaport. And so peering location, they now have Amsterdam Metro. And what that does is it automatically puts you in two different on-ramps. So primary is a different on-ramp from your secondary. And it's as simple as that. But brand new product. They're in the process of rolling out more locations. We'll keep you posted as usual. We're one of the first providers to help support this new product. So that's it from me, guys. I want to thank you for listening and for sitting with me. Hope you guys have a great week, great weekend. My name is Matt Madawi again, and thanks for joining us.